3 million years ago, when language had yet to be born, when no word had ever been carved into stone, the earth already spoke in its own voice. Amid the clouds of ash rising from volcanic mouths, the wind swept across vast grasslands, carrying the sound of the first stirrings of life. The thunderous calls of giant elephants, the deep growl of saber-toothed tigers, the soft whisper of wind brushing young blades of grass, all merged into the planet's primal symphony. In that world, every creature had its own language. Giant ostriches danced in the dust to declare their love. Elephants spoke through rumbles as deep as the earth's heartbeat, and the sky itself spoke through flashes of light and storms. There were no words, only sounds and motion. No humans, yet life already existed, fierce, untamed, and able to listen to one another. This was the beginning of everything, when Earth was still nameless and life was just learning how to greet its very first dawn. The first footsteps of Homo habilis. After millions of years of silence, a new form began to rise amid dust, grass, and stone.
We must be careful.
They did not yet speak. They had no names, but in their eyes flickered a different light, the first spark of intelligence. They touched stone and discovered that a sharp edge could replace claws. They heard the roars of beasts and learned to watch, to hide, to wait. They were not merely surviving, they were learning to think. Every gesture, every low growl, every glance became the first language of humankind. And from that wild, silent riverbank, a new journey began, the journey to become human. The world of giants. Before humankind ever knew power, this earth belonged to giants. Beneath the blazing golden sky of ancient Africa, the savanna stretched endlessly beyond sight. Herds of colossal ostrich ancestors, taller than the grass itself, thundered across the plains. Legs like pillars, every kick strong enough to shatter bone and end life in an instant. Far away, massive prehistoric elephants moved slowly, each step a rumble through the earth, each breath the sound of time itself. In the shadows of dying trees, saber-toothed cats crouched low, muscles coiled beneath sunlit fur, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Swift, precise, merciless, like the blade of nature itself. And then, the small ones. Homo habilis. Frail, bare-handed, without fangs or claws. They hid, they watched. They listened to the heartbeat of the world. But within those trembling eyes, something new began to glow. Curiosity. In a world ruled by strength and fear, a fragile being began to rule through thought. For life does not always choose the strongest to survive. Hunger and the reckless decision. Under the burning sun of the ancient savanna, the wind scorched the earth like fire. Days without rain stretched longer than fear itself. Hunger no longer gnawed only at the body. It seeped into the mind, whispering from the dark pit of instinct. Homo habilis, the first of humankind, huddled along the banks of a dried river, surrounded by cracked soil and the red glow of dying daylight. There were no more fruits to pick, no carcasses left to scavenge, only the hollow echo of empty stomachs breaking the silence of the plains. Their eyes turned toward the horizon, where dust rose around a herd of giant ostriches guarding eggs the size of a human leg, bright, full, pulsing with life. But to claim them meant to challenge death itself. Between instinct and fear, between despair and hope, a new thought emerged. For the first time in human history, if we have nothing left to eat, "We will take it." The words were never spoken, yet they thundered through every heartbeat. And so, in the depths of hunger, Homo habilis rose. No longer prey, no longer silent. With trembling hands gripping stone, they took their first step, a reckless step toward survival and the beginning of evolution itself. The reckless hunt. That noon, the savannah fell into an eerie silence. No birds, no wind. Only the pounding heartbeat of creatures preparing to face death. Across the shimmering sea of grass, Homo habilis moved into position, crouched low behind dry shrubs, eyes gleaming under the unforgiving sun. They knew one mistake, one careless sound, and the entire group could be slaughtered. In the distance, the giant ostrich towered nearly 3 meters tall, neck stretched high, eyes dark as volcanic stone, reflecting the fire of the midday sky. No words were spoken, only shallow breaths, trembling hands gripping stone. Then, the first rock flew. It sliced through the silence, struck the ground, and awakened the storm of survival. The earth trembled, dust erupted, the cries of beasts merged with the scream of the wind. Amid the chaos, Homo habilis fought not just to live, but to master their fear. And in that sacred moment, when instinct met reason, when fear turned into courage, humanity took its first step beyond the edge of the beasts. The fragile victory. The wind has stopped. The dust has settled. Only the heavy, broken breaths remain. The sound of survivors who have crossed the edge of death. Homo habilis, small, weary, covered in wounds, eyes hollow yet burning, but alive. In their trembling hands, the giant eggs shimmer beneath the dying sun, gifts from the earth itself, rewards for their courage and hunger to endure. They have won. But it is not a victory of strength, not of claws or speed. It is a victory of intellect, of unity, and of the courage to face fear, a feeling unnamed, yet deeply human. As they sit at the edge of the forest, sharing pieces of the precious egg, the sunset paints their faces in crimson silence. None of them know it, but in that fragile, fleeting moment, the course of humanity has already changed. For from that day forward, mankind would no longer fight merely to survive, but to live. The first fire night descends. The forest stands still. Only the whispers of wind and the soft hum of insects echo, the lullaby of an ancient earth. In that endless darkness, Homo habilis gather close. In their hands, rough stones striking against each other, sparks flashing, fragile and fleeting, fading into the night like distant dreams. And then, one spark lingers. A flicker, a glow, fire. It crackles to life, weak at first, then growing, painting light across faces filled with wonder and disbelief. In the reflection of the flame, they see something new. Not fear, not hunger, but the birth of their own soul. The cold retreats. The darkness withdraws. For the first time, humankind has its own light, and in that moment they discover warmth, safety, and sharing. That small, fragile flame, simple, fleeting, would one day ignite the story of all humanity. The seed of humanity, the first dawn after the night of fire. Light seeps through the trees, touching the faces of those who once trembled in fear, now learning to smile. They stand upon the boundless savannah, one hand gripping stone, the other cradling a child, eyes lifted toward the rising sun, a silent greeting to a new world. Homo habilis are no longer the frail creatures who only fled from danger. They now share food, guard one another, and trust. And within their gaze lies something no other species has ever known: awareness. From a herd that once feared the dark, they have become beings who dare to hope. From trembling hands, they have learned to hold each other. From a small fire born in the night, they carry its light forward through millions of years to come, lighting the long path of humankind. On that sunlit plain, humanity was born, not merely in body but in soul,